Let's go.
All right, welcome back to episode 6 of the Outsiders Pod. I'm very prepared today. New mic, new hair, new headphones, new camera. We're ready to go. This
you
podcast
look great.
is going to be
You look
the
great,
best.
Alex.
Thank you.
This is going to be a good episode.
Fresh shave. I'm doing my part. All right. Well,
we're trying to
you've got
hype
your
each other
three
up,
hosts.
and Michael just starts by laughing. This is a strong start, you know.
I love it. I'm hyped. Cool. Well, the three of us, Alex Cohen, Michael Girdley, and Chris Bakke, are going to deliver some hard-hitting news stories today with a bit of satire and some thoughtful commentary. So let's hop right into it. Chris, take it away.
All right. So we've got this story about Bard, which is Google's much hyped. That's a quote from CNN Business, by the way, much hyped. I don't know if it was actually hyped. I didn't hear about it at all. And then CNN Business said it was much hyped. So do you believe me? Do you believe CNN Business? Who's to believe here? Fake news. This much hyped new AI chatbot called Bard. They lost $100 billion, allegedly, from their market cap when they launched this thing because they posted a demo of it on Twitter where a user asks Bard about the new discoveries from the James Webb Space Telescope, and Bard responds with this list of bullet points, but one of the main bullet points is just totally wrong. And so their shares in Alphabet, Google's parent company, fell 8% yesterday, which wiped out $100 billion from its market cap. And then it fell another 4.5% today, which was another 50 billion. So if you're the engineer who got this demo wrong, I mean, I think you're singularly responsible for erasing $150 billion in value from Alphabet, which is just crazy. Who knows if that's actually the reason, but that's what Twitter's talking about.
I got to interrupt you because you said Baidu, which is a Chinese company, which also has its own chatbot, unfortunately named after a character on Sesame Street, Ernie. And then you start talking about Google's demo not working. Meanwhile, the Chinese company, I don't know if you saw this story, in parallel with Google losing whatever 10% of their market cap because they can't do a demo, Baidu gained 7% on their market cap because they say they're going to do a demo of Ernie in the future. So anyway, for those of you keeping score at home, this is peak technology business bullshit. This is the way this works. Hype happens, everybody chases after it, and then about 12 months from now, there'll be articles where it's like, man, the AI hype is not living up to what it's supposed to. And it's like, no, that's because we're in this stupid cycle and we keep doing this. It's like crypto, web, mobile, name it. It all happens. And so you're seeing it in real time here. Everybody's rushing to the hot, and they're going to fly up to this light bulb just like an insect, and then they're going to get burned, and then we're all going to wonder why it happened. And it just happens every time. Every time.
Word is on the street that the Outsiders podcast is going to release an AI-enabled chatbot. So sponsors, get your checkbooks out. This shit is going down. It's 100% real. We've been working hard behind the scenes. That's how value is created in tech these days. It's good.
Can we take a moment to appreciate how bad of a name Bard is for a product? What the fuck is a Bard? I read that and I was like, it's almost as bad as calling your chatbot Chad. But what is Bard? Do we actually know what Bard stands for or what it means?
Well, last week we covered that Google laid off 27 massage therapists. One of those massage therapists was actually in charge of naming products within Google, and they just cut the wrong person. So when they went to the creative whiteboard, they just had nothing, and they just shipped the first idea that they had. But yeah, it's a horrible name.
So we have talked about how good Apple is at naming products. What do they call they call a new screen? They call it the Retina screen. Just the most amazing name for
so good.
They're gonna rename electricity soon. That's basically what Apple does. They're that good. Electromagic. And it's just electricity. But Google is actually just as bad at naming things. Do you want to know what a Bard is? I happen to know because I'm a freaking nerd. Do you want to know?
What's a Bard?
It is a character type in who plays music, and you are a bard. You go around and you play on one of those little, I don't know, like Dungeons and Dragons. It's a musician character. That's what it is. And it's let's pick the worst name possible that only Dungeons and Dragons aficionados will like, and that's the Google product naming scheme.
Wow. Girdley, did you find out in correspondence with $100 billion of market cap being evaporated if one of the Google co-founders had to sell their 16th home?
They did have to fire 3 of the people that they had cloned, their butlers, their cloned butlers. Yeah. So,
this is a bad economy for blood boys who are just feeding blood into these billionaires behind the scenes.
In this economy, you got to make some hard decisions. That's what I have to say.
Totally.
Oh, man. Well, let's talk a little bit more about meme stocks for a second. So I don't know if you saw the news, but Ryan Cohen, my long lost brother and prolific activist investor, bought a pretty big stake in Nordstrom recently. And so this comes after him being famous for buying the stake in GameStop, in Bed Bath & Beyond, and sitting on the board of Bed Bath & Beyond for about a year or whatever it was. He's basically kind of like the figurehead of Reddit Wall Street bets. And so he purchases the stake in Nordstrom. No one knows what's happening right now because he hasn't gone on and given a comment about it. He's just like buying a big stake in another kind of struggling retail company. And my favorite part about this story is, so Cohen was on the board of Bed Bath & Beyond, which of course is going bankrupt now, and we've talked about them a bunch over the last few episodes. But after, he's no longer on the board, and he advocated for the firing of the then CEO Mark Tritton, who did end up leaving the company. Guess who the CEO of Nordstrom is right now? It's Mark Tritton. He's just he's the ghost of Mark Tritton. He's just like following him from company to company, being like, stop fucking up these companies.
That is incredible.
Look, he clearly did no due diligence on this investment because nobody's actually shopped at Nordstrom in over 14 months. That's just the way it works. And he hasn't been in one for sure. But like, come on, like, who thinks this is a good idea? But like,
so good.
Look, I just want to come out and say Ryan Cohen is my personal hero. Like, everybody wants to idolize like Warren Buffett, but the dude started Chewy.com, selling pet food over the internet. Scaled it up in Florida, by the way. So
Amazing
like he's
company.
dodging alligators to get to the UPS store to ship this stuff. Sells it for billions of dollars to Amazon, and then takes almost all the money and puts it in two stocks at the time. One is Apple, and the other one is what was in the last meme stock, GameStop. He put all of his money in those two companies. Like he's just like, well, I have 800 million. I'm just going to put it all in. Why not?
And like GameStop's a meme stock now. I mean, like over the last 2 years, you had no idea what was going to happen. They rose and fell by 50% every other day, and that's just what happened with Nordstrom. He bought the stake. Word got out he bought the stake. Nordstrom spiked 25% on Friday, and on Monday this week it plummeted another 8%. Like anything he touches turns into a meme.
It turns out Nordstrom is not a good business. That's what you need to know. GameStop, not a good business. But who cares? Like, I mean, this is like zero interest rate phenomenon we're looking for. We were talking about it last episode. Like Nordstrom, zero interest rate phenomenon. Like totally what it is. Like, who cares?
And the funny thing is Nordstrom put into place what's called a poison pill. Are you familiar with a poison pill? Basically, in the event of a hostile takeover by an activist investor or Ryan Cohen or whoever it is, there's basically there's a premium that an investor will have to pay if they decide to purchase more than 9.9% of the company in an effort to reduce that hostile takeover from a random investor. And whatever, the Nordstrom shareholders are like, this is what's in the best interest of shareholders, and we're doing no, they just don't want fucking Ryan Cohen getting into the business and firing Mark Tritton a second time. But right now, what everyone thinks is happening is that he hasn't purchased yet more than 10% of the company, or else it would have been disclosed and the poison pill would have gone into effect. So I don't know, some weird shit happening in retail. It's like 1 week Bed Bath & Beyond files for bankruptcy, my favorite company. I'm really sad when they go fully under. And then now you have activist investors working to take down Nordstrom from the inside. So,
but I think Nordstrom is like, I actually think it is the perfect consumer company. Like Nordstrom kind of reminds me of like a venture-backed business where it's like, sure, I'll buy this $30 bottle of wine that it took $70 to produce because the VCs are just going to eat $40 of it. Like that's Nordstrom. Actually, I think like I've been in a couple of Nordstroms in the last 2 years because I'm 85 years old at heart. And I love just perusing some jackets from time to time. And, I got to say, it's like there's always parking right up front because nobody's fucking going there. There's like 120 associates who are super knowledgeable just standing around who can like basically be your personal concierge and like dress you. You're not getting any discounts because it's the Nordstrom brand, but it's actually like an amazing experience. And they're doing all of this in like a 90,000 square foot, like pretty well, kind of like outdated by 15 years, but who really cares, big box store. And then they've got like cafes and restaurants, and all of those cafes and restaurants have like 30 people standing around serving like 6 people. So it's a crazy business, but I for one, am glad that it actually exists and that somebody's, subsidizing this for me.
So they made, if you look at their net operating income, if I'm reading this right, they made 326 million in net operating income last year from operating. 326 million, trailing 12 months. And the company is currently valued at 3.6 billion. So 10 times free cash flow. Like, it's not a bad business. Like, they're actually generating, like, this is a company that sells stuff and makes money. And, like, you know, not terrible. Usually I hate on stuff.
I'm only familiar with VC math. What's the community adjusted EBITDA here? Can you give us like the WeWork valuation of these numbers?
Yes, Adam Newman weighed in on that. It's 14 billion, more than the revenue.
Okay, good. Okay, so not a bad business. Yeah.
No.
Dude, I kind of want to dig into this. Like, how does Nordstrom actually work? Like, I don't know anybody that goes there.
Well, how do they?
So
I think a lot of it's online. A lot of it's e-commerce for sure. I would guess.
Wait, I thought they sold that to Ty Lopez. Did that not?
No, that was
that's
you're thinking of Radio Shack.
Oh, okay.
I've been to a Nordstrom's recently. I mean, they are fine. It's very average for the quality of item that they're trying to sell. Like, they're trying to sell a lot of high-end stuff, but it doesn't really feel like a high-end store. Their return policy is great. If you go there and you don't like something after like 6 months, they'll take it back, no questions asked. They'll like find your receipt. We purchased our last stroller from them, and like what Chris said, you get a personal shopper with you the entire time. Like, we had this guy, he knew more about strollers than I could even imagine one person knows about strollers. He let us take it down to the car in the parking garage, and we took the car seat and put the car seat in the car and strapped it in. And the guy the whole time was like, yeah, this is what they pay me for. I can just like spend one-on-one time with customers to sell these car seats and strollers. And I was like, do you make commission? He goes, yeah, you know, some, but like, I'm really passionate about car seats and strollers.
Imagine
I do
being
have a
the
soft
stroller king of Austin. That's an incredible job. There's like the sausage king of Chicago, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and this guy's the stroller king of Austin. That's an amazing job. Good for him.
I do have a soft spot in my heart for Nordstrom because when I was a younger man, I needed to buy my first suit out of college in order to go to, I don't know, some sort of business thing or whatever. I went to the Nordstroms in San Francisco, and I got a guy like that who was like the stroller king of Austin, but he was the suit guy of San Francisco. And he talked me into buying an olive green suit, which would have been my only suit in the late 90s.
That's what GQ always recommends.
And I got this olive green suit, which would have been helpful, you know, if I was going to wear it to any land war in Asia, or or I don't know, if I was going to go work at an Italian restaurant in South San Jose.
This is like the 1978 like holiday party at Lehman Brothers, like a lot of like olive green suits with like big lapels on them and stuff. That's a good look.
So I got it home and I hung it in my apartment, and kind of like Alex's Peloton, you know, I had clothes all over my apartment, kind of hanging out just right in the middle of everything. And for like 7 days, I'd like wake up in the middle of the night and I'd see that like olive green suit sitting on the closet. And eventually I like sheepishly walked in on a different day than the day I bought it, hoping the guy wouldn't be there. And I just walked in. I was like, can I have my money back? And they're like, yes, sir. You can have this custom tailored olive 6'6" guy suit that we sold you.
20 years later, they're still doing no questions asked refunds.
Dude, they're heroes. They're heroes. Someone has to sell all the middle-aged women on a budget dresses they can wear once and then return after that fancy event. So it's basically, they invented Rent the Runway, basically. Think about it.
But it's all free. So again, amazing business for consumers. Not so great to be Ryan Cohen, maybe, but good to be Ryan Cohen overall. Not in this deal. We'll see.
Yeah, my brother. If you hear this, brother, call me. Michael, can you... we have a story in here that I'm reading right now, and I'm just confused. Can you tell us about Elon Musk's brain chip monkey test?
I think this is super interesting. Okay, so Elon Musk is being investigated by the Department of Transportation over potentially moving hazardous pathogens as related to their startup called Neuralink. So Neuralink is a startup that Elon Musk has backed, and I guess he's CEO of that as well. I can't keep track of this anymore. But Neuralink is a brain chip startup that will enable your brain to talk directly to computers. So no more keyboards, no more Siri. By the way, I figured out the number one use case for Siri. Do you guys know what it is?
the weather.
It's interrupting every meeting I'm in when it spontaneously goes off on somebody's watch, thinking that we're talking to Siri and asking how to get to the nearest In-N-Out burger. Like, it happens every single meeting. Like, don't put Siri on your phone. This is a bad idea. Anyway, so Elon Musk's brain chip startup is being investigated over potentially moving hazardous pathogens after monkey tests. So who do you think is actually studying and going after Elon Musk now? Which government department do you think is going after him? Do you think it's like the Department of Commerce, the FTC, Federal Trade Commission? Who do you think's after him now?
No, you said it's the DOT.
It's the United States Department of Transportation. The same guy that makes sure trucker Billy out of Ohio is not driving his truck overweight is investigating Elon Musk's tech startup. And the activists have alleged, and they went and complained to the Department of Transportation, that Neuralink has not properly transported brain chips that they had put into monkey test subjects. And an animal rights group criticized U.S. Department of Transportation, criticized Neuralink to them over their past use of the monkeys, and the U.S. DOT is going after them. So interestingly enough, I think this is like dumb anyway. But like, I think what's interesting about this is like, you do not want to go into becoming political if you're a business person. I think it's just pretty straightforward. Like, don't do it. Like Pete Buttigieg, how do you pronounce it? Pete Buttigieg? Yes, thank you. I apologize to Mr. Buttigieg for my stupidity. But he's a political animal, right? He wants to be president someday, and he is coming after Elon to make a point about it. He's running this department. Like, I think Bezos and these guys that stay away from politics, super genius. Super duper genius.
All could have been avoided. All could have been avoided if Elon would have finished his underground tunnels and transported the monkeys there. He could have avoided this entire debacle with Pete Buttigieg.
Pete Buttigieg. This is where we get like 1,000 reviews out of nowhere. Like, people hate when you pronounce things wrong. It's like, no. This is how you pronounce Pete Buttigieg.
It's perfect.
I mean, I'm sure. I think it is smart to stay out of politics. But who would have thought? Who would have thought that the Department of Transportation is going to be coming after Neuralink? How random.
I did not have that on my bingo card.
This is like a word jumble headline. When you were like, reading this headline, brain chip startup is being investigated by the Department of Transportation over potentially moving hazardous pathogens after monkey tests. Like, that is not a real headline. Only in the year 2023 can we let that slide.
It gets better. I'm reading the NBC News version of this, and it says the Physicians Committee of Responsible Medicine and Animal Welfare Advocacy Group said it obtained emails and other documents that suggest unsafe packaging and movement of these implants.
Who wrote the emails? The monkeys?
All right. Look, here, I think the listeners need to know this show's getting really hard to do because the news sucks right now. Like, how much time did we each spend trying to find good news stories to cover in startup and tech? They suck. Story. So here's what we need to do. I got a plan for us, and we can make some money along the way. We need to start the Podcasters Committee on Responsible Responsibilitying, and then we need to start complaining about stuff. And you know what we could do? We could also shake down people like some of those other folks do, the activists, just get paid off and they could sponsor us with a donation. Who needs these $50 an episode sponsors we're getting? We could go big and get like $100 shaking down some of these corporations. Who's in?
I'm in.
All we need is some postage stamps and Mirko to write some letters. Do they send American mail from Argentina, Mirko? Does that work? No? Okay. All right, let's keep going. I don't
understand. Like, Elon is just CEO of too many companies now. He's got Tesla. He's got SpaceX, the Boring Company, Neuralink, Twitter. What else?
As a holdco owner of multiple businesses who's CEO of none of them, he's ruining my life. Because that's all a lot of people know about somebody who's involved in multiple businesses, where Elon's like, yeah, I run all these companies. That's the way it works. Well, no, it doesn't work that way. Like, you can't run more than one business. Mm-hmm. Realistically, you can't. So I have to explain to people. They're like, how do you run all these companies? I'm like, I don't.
No, you run them to the
ground. Other
ground.
people run them, and I just own parts of them. That's how it works.
Oh, man. That is a weird story.
Weirdest we've had, maybe.
Wait. Because, all right, move on to the next one. I'm
Let's
done.
talk about Adam. I mean, we've got actually some really fascinating stuff in here. So let's talk about Masayoshi Son. Personally now owes SoftBank, the company that he founded, $5.1 billion because he did some side deals in the late stage private venture market, and those companies shit the bed, and now he owes a lot of money. So just for context, Masayoshi Son is the founder of SoftBank. He's worth billions and billions of dollars. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, launched the Vision Fund. It was like $100 billion fund, largest ever in the history of venture capital. And then they just started pouring money into all these late stage private companies at absurd valuations. And you famously probably know him for being the person who gave Adam Newman billions of dollars to go build the future of whatever the fuck that company ended up turning into. And so now
WeWork. You're talking about WeWork?
WeWork.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so he was the one who funded WeWork and, like, you know, sort of spiraled it out of control. And so what's happening is now he personally owes SoftBank $5.1-ish billion because he tied his personal compensation at SoftBank to the profits and losses of these private late stage investments, because compensation in Japan for executives is kind of a controversial topic. And so he only pays himself like $750,000 a year base salary. And so to make up for the rest of it, he did side deals in these late stage companies that Vision Fund was also investing in. And he owns a large percentage of those holding vehicles as well. And now that everything is down 60, 70, 80% in the private markets and public markets, but like tech is just down across the board, he's got sort of this this downside risk that he took on himself for his own compensation, and he now personally owes
Do you know
money.
why this is amazing though for him? It's like, if you owe the bank $5.1 million, that's your problem.
Yep.
If you owe the bank $5.1 billion, that's their fucking problem. So, I mean, is he actually going to have to like come up with 5.1 billion? No, it's like he'll just restructure, and it's like he's fake being tied to like all of this downfall, right? But it's an amazing story. I mean, this is crazy that he, like, his risk profile is so out of whack that he would allow this to happen. It's unbelievable.
But I also don't understand, like, if SoftBank, like, he's just going to have to collect the money from himself. He's the owner of SoftBank, and he owes himself money. Like, how does this, he just, like, writes it off? He can just write it off.
He doesn't own it all. It's a publicly traded company.
Okay, fine.
He's got shareholders he's robbing for this money. Look, here's the solution. Crypto taught us anything. All he needs to do is invent his own token, print a bunch of it, get SoftBank to buy it, and then borrow the money back and then never pay it, and then give all the money to the politicians, and it'll go great. That's the whole plan.
Coin. Let's go
The Masa
to
coin.
the moon.
To the moon.
To the moon.
So that's the story.
That's the only way out.
It's just crazy. I mean, just that, like, to put, I mean, I don't think he's worth, what, tens of billions of dollars. So for him, he's still doing great. But to just tie your financial compensation with such a, you don't even collar it, like to tie it to that big of a potential downside for these late stage companies that you yourself are overinflating, because it's your Vision Fund that's marking these companies up 5, 10, 20x. And then to take the loss on that is just incredible. I have in my notes,
Is
I wrote,
he going to like have to sell shares in SoftBank? Like, how does this work? Like, he's worth 23 billion, but all of that is based on these like 2022 high water marks. Like, so all of that falls. Not only does his net worth presumably fall because it hasn't been recalibrated, but now he actually owes 5 billion. Like, this just seems like this is one of those things that is like good for lawyers and accountants, and it matters to nobody else, because like lawyers on both sides will make like tens of millions of dollars doing like fighting this back and forth. He'll ultimately like settle, you know, for like some amount of money that's like trivial, and everybody will move on. It's like a slap in the wrist.
If you ever want to see the most beautiful piece of art, go back and find the SoftBank Vision Fund pitch deck that he put together. That's like 150 slides that he used to raise all that money from the Saudis and other folks. And it's the craziest thing ever. Like, it's just like, it makes you see, and we're going to talk about Adam Newman here, I think, in a minute, the people that are able to do that reality distortion field. Literally, he was like showing pictures of like monkeys with swords and stuff. And it's like, let's show you how the world is going to change. SoftBank, much money. Like, that's the whole pitch. Like, but it was 100 slides of like random pictures.
Turnaround.
He gave third graders with crayons LSD and said, have at it on the pitch deck. And they just like went to town drawing unicorns and hills and crazy shit. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Like, it's almost like we talked about it in the pre-show. Like, there are certain things that, like, at one end of the spectrum, they're really good. And at the other end of the spectrum, they're so bad that they become good again. And that's what this pitch was. Like, it's amazing. Like, go check it out. It's up there in the pantheon of like greatest things ever written. It's up there with like King James Bible, On the Road by Jack Kerouac, the Chili's Menu. Like, it is that level of kind of stuff that you want to go into. Highly recommend it.
I coach and mentor a lot of startup founders, and I always send them that pitch deck as inspiration. But I've never read the pitch deck. I understood it from the first slide.
Yeah, I just read the first slide.
Why do I need to read it?
I saw it.
Yeah, community
I got time to read that.
The thesis at the end is like something around that the world is becoming a lonelier place, and therefore you need technology. And it's like, it's so terrible, but also so profound. It's like Michael said. I mean, there's no way to argue that. It's like, yeah, like I guess the world is becoming more separate and a lonelier place. Therefore, I need $100 billion to go deliver into like 8-minute door-to-door, like make you a fucking pizza companies and like drop it off on your doorstep. Like there's this like, yeah, this like reality distortion field is so weird in between, but I think like everybody can actually agree with the thesis to some extent. But I mean, good for him. It's the greatest transfer of wealth from, the Saudis to just like a Harvard and Stanford dropouts who are getting like $70 million secondaries on their Series Cs. Good for them.
I missed the boat.
Well, here's the thing. After 25 years in business, I've discovered this secret, and I'm going to blow you guys' mind.
Let's hear it.
Half of the people out there are below average intelligence. I'm not sure you're aware of this, but like, yeah, it's bad, right? And then it's this is mind-blowing stuff, right? Then there's this other group of people who are kind of the middle, like, 1 sigma in the middle of the normal distribution. And the unfortunate problem with these people, when you're just slightly smarter than average, is you are incapable of differentiating total gibberish with that has high level words with actual real smart stuff. So there are a ton of people that get through life who are slightly intelligent by just assuming if you sound smart, you are smart. So that is why you go on Twitter and there are people on there that say the dumbest stuff, but they say it with college PhD level language, very convoluted, and they got a picture that looks like they're smart. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever read. Like, yeah, of course the sky's blue. Like, why did you have to say it? Like, I mean, it's not hard. But that is the way this works. So you just got to understand, like, don't get mad. Don't hate the players. You just hate the game. Because there's those people that get by just sounding like they're smart.
This is Poes Law. If anyone's not familiar with Poes Law and is listening to this, Poes Law is this...
No, it's not. I just made it up.
No. Poes Law is a real thing. I forget who. It's some guy named Poe who came up with it. But basically,
Edgar Allan Poe, yeah, I'm sure.
Well, maybe. If you say something on the internet, and basically there is no clear indication that it's satire, people will believe it to be true. And so,
okay, here. I'll read it. Without clear indicator of the author's intent, any parody of extreme views can be mistaken by some readers for a sincere expression of the views being parodied.
Yes.
It's right on.
Chicken in the coffee
so
pot
any
post
parody of intelligence can be viewed as sincere. That's what I'm trying to say. That's
and my
right
chicken in the coffee pot post that I can't live down a year later, where I made a joke on LinkedIn that I was trying to save the company money and get a promotion, so I ended up cooking chicken in the hotel coffee pot, and everyone on the internet thought it was true. I had friends texting me like, bro, that's fucking disgusting. Why would you do that? I'm like, I didn't do this. You know me. Like, why would I do this thing? But it was incredible.
We knew it was fake. We knew it was fake because how could you prepare any sides to go with the chicken inside the coffee pot? Like, where's the mashed potatoes? Like biscuits? There's nothing.
Those on the
like
iron.
The thing you should have done with that would have been funny is have a follow up about how you made your own wine in the toilet at the motel and you fermented it overnight so you could be ready for the next day to go with the chicken to save the company money. That's what you should have done as a follow up.
Tomorrow I'm posting a post on LinkedIn like stressed out of my job and I'm traveling for work and I couldn't afford wine, so I made it in the toilet.
Guaranteed viral. Guaranteed. Should we cover Adam Newman here since we're on the SoftBank train?
Yeah,
Alex,
let's get to Adam Newman. So, speaking of SoftBank and WeWork, Adam Newman, the old co-founder of WeWork, has started a new company called Flow, which is buying apartments and turning them into rentals, and he's becoming a monster slumlord basically at the end of the day. So he raised $350 million from Andreessen several months ago at more than $1 billion valuation. In recent months, it's said that he's purchased, in 2019, he purchased more than $1 billion on 3,000 housing units for Flow located across Atlanta, Nashville, Tennessee, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami. And so he believes that by giving tenants a feeling of ownership, which they don't actually get, they will spend less on repairs and plunge their own toilets. And he's trying to build a community around slumlord rental apartments. And so just like he dumped his bags on SoftBank with the whole WeWork thing, we'll see what happens with Flow. But at the end of the day, he says that it's made up of 4 pillars. 1 is a branded property management company that runs its buildings. 2 is an asset management company that owns the buildings. 3 is financial services. And 4 is a tool that plans to take some of the value and share it with the value creators, which we can assume is the tenants.
The podcasters?
You missed the 5th pillar in this diagram, which is just lies. It's all fucking lies. Asset management, property management, value creation, value sharing. I'm a fucking liar. That's like how this whole company is doomed.
Yep.
But that's okay.
Yep.
Did you watch his pitch when he was on stage and somebody asked him to describe it? And he described it in a very medium kind of Israeli accent. He's got this flowing black hair. He looks like a skinny Fabio. like it was impressive.
Yeah, he's
like,
good at that.
Like if people wonder, like there's that 0.001% of the population that just has this gift of unbelievable charisma to make people believe them. Like I was watching it and it's like watching Michael Jordan like shoot 3-pointers, right? Or dribble or whatever, like LeBron James. It is that level of reality distortion. And I cannot blame people one bit for giving him money. Like, because if you got that, like that is a superpower for the company.
He's one of the best manipulators of our generation that we'll ever see. And he's great at talking. He's great at presentations. He's always charismatic, but like we need to call this thing for what it is. It is a multifamily slumlord operation is what he's building at scale. It's not tech enabled. It's not community driven. Like he's just a fucking landlord buying a bunch of apartments with 4 different entities. Like that's all it is.
I think there is this element of like using crypto as the incentives, which makes it even funnier. Which is like,
oh god,
how are you going to incentivize?
I was trying to help them, and then they're putting crypto in this shit.
No, I think I read about it. I read about it on the internet, so therefore it must be true. No, I think the way that they're going to incentivize the renters to like plunge their own toilet, and that whole thing leads into this cost structure of like, well, with a normal property management company, if we have to come out and dispatch somebody to plunge their toilet or change a light bulb, then that accrues all of these expenses for the property management company. But if we give them Atom Coin for, good job, buddy, you plunged your own toilet. Is that like self-reported? I hope so. If you get to work on like the self-reported tenant plunger team at Flow or whatever this company's called, that's an amazing LinkedIn, story. And so, yeah, they're like going to use like crypto to create these incentives for renters, which makes the story even 10% better.
All right. I want to give you my argument for why I think everybody involved in this is acting rationally. And I think it's actually a testament to how great America is.
This segment
Would you
is
like to
called
hear this
Girdley's
argument?
Growth.
Let's go.
Thoughts.
Or we could call this Girdley's Galaxy Brain if you want. But look, like Andreessen Horowitz gave him like $200 million or something for this stuff. And the reality is they're acting entirely rationally to do this. Like there is a very real chance he creates something just as big as WeWork. Maybe not with as much free kombucha, but like it becomes something really meaningful. And like, yeah, okay, so he was kind of a failure because he only created a business worth $12 billion as opposed to one that should be worth $120 billion in terms of WeWork. But like, still, like it's entirely rational. Like they're giving this guy money. And I think the fact that we have the capital around in America to pursue seemingly lunatics pursuing lunatic ideas, like that is a feature, not a bug. And I know you guys are going to hate this. Alex, over to you to rebut the Girdley Galaxy Brain argument on that one.
Look, I think there's 2 big problems with Adam Newman in general and this deal. One, it's not that someone gave him money to go and build a very large real estate holding co. Like you'd give any large real estate manager like GP money to go do that. That's fine. the fact that it's coming out of a venture fund makes everyone sort of question, like, well, why did they raise such a big fund if they're only going for 2x's and 3x returns? Like, just why aren't you investing that in earlier stage software or other tech-enabled companies? Like, they're parking LP money in a real estate holding company, which is weird. Like, that doesn't really make sense. It does if you just want a guaranteed 1.5 to 3x return. I think the part, and when I say like the thing that's wrong with Adam, is when you look back to all of the things that happened with WeWork and how much the early employees were just screwed over out of their equity and their compensation because of how much was raised and how that company was run, it doesn't leave you feeling all happy and giddy to see him building another company and probably doing similar things. And so I think that's where a lot of the contention, it's not that he's like charismatic and charming and can go build companies, and there's no doubt he can go build a big company. The way that he treated people the way up and then treated them the way down, and he left with billions of dollars in his pocket while employees who are working 90 hours a week didn't get the same opportunities in their secondaries, just like doesn't make you feel great about seeing the guy go get another $400 million to go build another company.
But
we love failure. We love failure in Silicon Valley / New York. These are New York problems, by the way. Yeah. Is he?
I mean, it makes sense. He's launching a crypto / apartment company. Like, Miami's the ideal.
What a hero.
All right, what's the next topic? I'm done. I'm done with my rant about early stage employee compensation.
Nice take. Totally wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
Should we go down the rabbit hole of the jobs market again, or should we talk about the Chinese spy balloon? What do you guys want to cover here?
Spy balloon.
I have tons of rants about whatever you want. Pick a topic. I'll rant for you.
All right, let's
I got
hit
everything.
Let's hit him with the Chinese spy balloon. All right, so there was this balloon over the last week that we all heard about. It's like the most memeable thing. And a U.S. diplomat came out earlier today and said that no fewer than 4 of these spy balloons have crossed basically the entire U.S. Over the last, I think, 5 years, and that these efforts have been tracked across 5 different continents. So I think the question that everybody has asked is, why did the government allow this thing to fly over the entire U.S., presumably for the 4th or 5th time over the last 4 or 5 years, if it was knowingly owned by the Chinese government and also was like reportedly spying on the U.S.? I think that's on everybody's mind. And the second question is what other things are happening that, like, if you didn't spot the giant fucking balloon in the sky, which is like what happened, some Montana rancher's like, why is there a white balloon coming over my ranch with like a giant satellite imagery thing like attached to the bottom of it? That seems questionable. So like, if it wasn't for this like citizen-led journalism, like this thing could have just like kept circling every year across the U.S. Who knows what they're doing with the data? Maybe it goes back to like, what data are they getting that's not already on Google Maps? I've got a lot of questions here.
I don't know.
Or getting from
does
satellites.
anyone know what it was actually doing up there still? Like, have there been any reports or any insights? I didn't read the news article like a good host, but.
I mean, they shot it down, and the military recovered it, and it's off in some place around Area 51, Area 52. I can't keep track which place they take these things. And they're examining it to discover it's probably just some cameras and some radios, and it was just flying over Montana.
It was a Mr. Beast prank.
So,
like, this was just one elaborate. Like, I put a balloon in the sky, and the person who shot it down gets $1 million. Next YouTube video.
And the U.S. spent like $200 million on like missiles to shoot it down with fighter jets.
Well, I mean, it does come back to, like, you talk about, like, these balloons happened before, like, they went over the U.S., there's Chinese spy satellites, there's Chinese, like, spies all over America, like, going through American companies. There are Chinese doing deals with American companies to get them access to the Chinese market, and then suddenly, next thing we know, all of our technology is over there stolen, and we don't have access to those markets. Like, It is not, it's one of those things where it just drives me nuts where I'm like, you guys should pay attention to what really matters over here. It's kind of like, we're going to worry about this damn balloon. Well, my best one to rant against is everybody freaking out about the monopoly over Taylor Swift tickets. I'm like, why do you guys care so much about Taylor Swift tickets? Why do you get mad about the fact we're not building enough houses? Like, that's what really matters here, right? Or the fact we've allowed all the airlines.
Taylor Swift tickets, actually.
Secret Swiftie.
Or the fact we've allowed over the past 25 years, like most of the government contractors and most of the airlines to consolidate down to where like literally a top 4 airline right now is American Airlines. Like literally you're lucky there are cushions on the seats. Like that's how bad the government has let stuff happen. And we're worried about a goddamn balloon. Seriously? Like wake up, America. If you guys, literally, you didn't listen to any of my point because you're worried about Taylor Swift tickets. I triggered both of you millennials about this. Give me a break.
If all of the teenage girls in America would just put the same level of energy that they have behind Taylor Swift into building affordable multifamily real estate that Girdley and his enterprises can buy up, the world would be a better place.
No. I'm not going to buy up anything. It's Adam Newman and his new venture that's going to Bitcoin those things and make them popular for everybody.
Why do we hate Adam? I'm sorry for going on my rant.
Dude, back to Adam. I admire the guy. Like you just gotta appreciate the game. Like the guy's good. Like he's really, really good. Like you may not appreciate it. He may have done some stuff that's wrong, but like that level of talent, like that's amazing.
His
anyway.
rental apartments have like beer taps in the community rooms and like.
I heard actually a rumor the showers are going to be 100% kombucha. There's not going to actually be water.
All tequila.
You'll take showers of kombucha.
You're just showering,
all kombucha,
drinking the entire time. Oh man.
Well, we could keep talking about how depressing the job market is, but literally I talk to people about this. I'm like, America is down trading jobs. Like all of these really high paying white collar jobs are going overseas and are getting down traded. Like nobody cares.
Just tech.
I've talked to my friends about this. They're like, yeah, don't worry about it, Girdley. It'll be fine. I'm like, no, it won't. No, it won't. Like
it's just
we're in big trouble.
However, I had a realization this week. I think RIFs, so a reduction in workforce, is like the most base thing a company can do right now. If you're not doing a RIF as a late stage company, like personally, I think you're just keeping a bunch of people around that probably aren't doing a lot of work. And so if you don't take the current market climate and the opportunity to lay off 20%, the bottom 20% of your workforce, like you're missing out on a really big opportunity to cut a lot of the fat and become a lot more efficient. And like, look, everything at Twitter is basically broken right now, so I don't want to use them as the example of a company. Like, they downsize too much, but I don't know. I still know a lot of people who work at companies that went through pretty big rifts, and their companies are operating fine. And when I've spoken to them, they've told me, like, we have less bloat, we've got less meetings, we're producing we're producing more work than we had when we had 3 times as many people. And the other thing that's really interesting is I think a lot of companies learn after they do a riff that it wasn't like you find a lot of things that are broken or that you think are broken when you let people go, and it turns out the people that were doing them broke them. And so anyway, that's my realization that I had recently looking at all these companies that are doing riffs, and a lot of people are like, oh, that's bad. I'm like, no, that's a sign of a healthy company. Honestly, tech companies have been way too soft over the last 2 years and haven't laid off as many people as they should, and let a lot of people stick around and work their 7 jobs across Google and Facebook at the same time.
There's the idea of as these teams get bigger, they don't get more efficient; they get less efficient, and like it's extreme. Like I was working at a big company, and I was managing 14 people because they kept giving me people who were underperformers, and they asked me like, "How many do you want when we're done?" I said, "Well, we can get more done with me and 2 people." None of the other managers said that. And I was like, look, like I'm spending all my time trying to coach these people that are not good fits for the company and the role to just get average. And me and these 2 high performers, if we just didn't have to do that, we could do so much work. And like, It's totally true. It's totally true.
There was this thing on Twitter that mapped like Facebook's reporting structure, because Mark Zuckerberg has asked a bunch of these like managers to start doing individual contributor work or leave the company. And they mapped like the operational org and the technical org. And it goes like Mark Zuckerberg at the top of both, COO for one, CTO of another. On the operational side, there are 5 levels of VP before you hit senior director. then you go through like 2 senior directors, then 3 directors, then like 3 managers. And so anyways, like the point was on the technical side, senior engineers at Meta are like 13 or 14 layers removed from Mark Zuckerberg. And on like the operational and sales side, like senior individual contributors are like 16 levels removed from Mark Zuckerberg.
Nuts.
I mean, that's just like if you're going through 5 layers of VPs, something
That's
is
so
like
many
broken.
people.
So back in the day, Bill Gates used to have these infamous code reviews where he was like a great technologist, and people would have to come in and like present their code to Bill and like senior level leaders. And you come for like 10 or 15, there's like 10 or 15 people and Bill in there. And he's like, yeah, I was checking your check-in from last night. It's freaking terrible. Like it was just like, whoa, like a level of like hard driving that like a lot of these companies just have missed. And look, that world is kind of gone now. It's not like Microsoft in the 80s or 90s when they were one of 100 tech companies like around the world. Now there's 100 like near Alex's house. Like that's the way it works. And but like, you know, these founders staying really close to it and keeping high standards, like,
Yeah.
you know, it's real. Like, and it
I
changes
think,
everything.
You know, when you look at hiring big company people, the challenging thing is to try to actually figure out if they did work or they didn't do work there for their period of time that they spent at that company. And so when you have manager after manager after manager, and then you have a few like individual contributors sprinkled throughout, the problem is you remove accountability from any one single person. And so no one actually owns the project. No one owns the work. No one owns an OKR. And like these companies get so big and bloated. And here's the thing is when you're Meta and you have a small team that's working on something experimental and it doesn't work, like they chalk it up to a write-off because that's what it is. Who cares if like the one little thing that they spent $10 million a year on funding to try to figure out if it would be a really interesting business line for them didn't work out. And so when you hire these people and they go, oh, I want to go work at a smaller company, I'm going to have more ownership of my work, you don't know if they did any real work while they were at that company. They could have been squeezed in between 3 managers, or they could have been one of the managers themselves and not actually responsible for anything. And so it's really hard sometimes to get a good gauge of, did I just float off my teammates' work or work that existed for 5 years before I even joined? And it's still like, you know, the ads business at Google still powers the majority of their other business units. Or did they actually do anything interesting, you know, from really 0 to 1, like from conceptualization to building it and shipping the thing, and how involved were they in the process? And I see this all the time with early stage companies trying to recruit big company people your job at a big company is to make yourself look really, really good. And that doesn't work. It creates misaligned incentives when you go to a small company and try to do that. Cohen's career advice. You heard it here first.
Yep. Love it. We're going to kill that in a short. That's going to be a good one. We're going to clip that out.
Yeah.
Motivating the people.
Yeah.
It's true, though. It's a good point.
Yeah.
All right, I think
All
we
right.
hit it all. Take us home. We need to ask for reviews because we're
more
desperate.
Costco glizzies. I paid out 1 Costco glizzy. At least that was the one person who DM'd me and they said I reviewed it. But look, this time Girdley will buy you a Costco hot dog if you review the podcast and refer a friend.
Are you kidding, man? I ain't got money for that. This is an MS Paint level operation. That was the funniest thing. Somebody replied to our like tweet last week, and they created their own logo to make it nicer for us. And I was like, "What the hell is going on here? Where'd we get money?" The guy just did it for
That's pretty
fun.
good too.
Love it.
Just did it for fun. I was like, this is strictly a Microsoft Paint level operation. And dude, the funniest thing is, so I was talking to somebody about the podcast today, and he's like, look, I think that podcast you're working on, the new one, I think it's got legs. And I was like, you mean Outsiders? He's like, yeah, I hate that name.
Should we rename we're 6 episodes in? Like, is there a better name than the Outsiders? Like what?
That's my reaction to everybody. I was like, do you have a better name than the Outsiders? And he was like, no. But if we think of one, I'll send it to you. But here's the best part. Our logo, what I talked about, that U shape of bad, so bad is good. He saw our MS Paint logo that Mirko made, and he goes, I love the logo. How much did you pay for that? Like, it looks like somebody spent nothing on it. It's so good. And I was like, yeah, that's because we spent nothing on it. Mirko did it after a late night party, and he sent it
great.
over.
I love it.
For listeners, Mirko's our producer. Someday he'll talk because he just yells at us before the episode on how not to be idiots.
He makes everything
Other than
happen
that, he
behind the
doesn't.
scenes.
Well, that's the
It's
episode
great.
for today. Yes.
All right, so give us a review. subscribe, right? What else do we need people to do? Hit Facebook,
Tweet
hit
about
Spotify, hit Apple Podcasts, hit Twitter, hit LinkedIn, go on Reddit, write about us on Reddit. Get your comment deleted from an angry Reddit mod. Go on Yahoo Answers. Put us on there. Go on Quora. Nobody talks about
I
Quora.
got it.
Throw us up there.
Tell your friends about it on MySpace. No, the thing they need to do. Here's the thing we need to do. If you're going to do anything for me, and I know we're friends. People do anything for me. This is Alex Cohen, by the way. Do anything for me. I need you to go on YouTube. Find our podcast, click subscribe, notification, then go watch all of our videos front to back, click like on them, and then reply in the comments, best clip ever, Girdley looks hot. And then if you do that on all of them, I will buy you 2 Costco hot dogs.
I'm going to up the, if you watch all 5 hours of videos and subscribe and notify, I'll buy you a fucking Chili's Sizzler. What is it? The fajita Sizzlers. Girdley's favorite food. I will buy you a sizzling fajitas from Chili's. I will send you a Chili's gift card, and you can go there and enjoy your sizzling fajitas if you watch all 5 hours of our YouTube episodes and subscribe.
Let's go.
What a deal. You're not going to get that on any other podcast because no one has deals that weird.
No one has deals that weird. The other thing my buddy said, by the way, which is hilarious, he goes, "Man, that Chris Bocky's really funny." And I was like, "Yeah, he's hilarious." And I was like, "Okay, what about me?" He didn't say anything.
I love this guy.
He's like, "Yeah, Chris Bocky, he is hilarious." And I was like, "Huh? How about the Girdley?" He's like,
Who
"No."
else?
It's like you're just there.
Shout out to that guy. You know
if you
who
do
are.
search for us, actually,
Shout out
come
to
up
that guy.
first. The Outsiders podcast on YouTube. We are like the only result, so we nailed YouTube search algorithm.
We've outranked that far right
No. She was the
neo-Nazi
comment
podcast
section.
called
We're
The
no longer in
Outsiders.
comment section. All right, that's it, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll be back for episode 7 next Friday.